I've helped companies raise their market cap by over $2.5 billion. My thought is go find a problem that gives you a lot of pain and then use AI to solve that, make it easy. Then you're on the path. Then go to the next step and the next step.
Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here today. We have a very special guest and we're going to have an amazing conversation. He's a master storyteller and he has done more than 2.5 billion in sales published.
Well, I've helped companies raise their market cap by over $2.5 billion. So multiple companies, the market cap is the value of their company on the stock exchange or in private equity, that sort of thing. So it's on the work we've done, but we've tracked that. And the market cap on some of the private companies has gone exploded well beyond that. But those are the safe numbers.
That's pretty fascinating and truly incredible. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you get into it? And
Sure, I'm happy to. So I started off in high tech. So I was a salesperson, kind of regional manager in a high tech company that had an extremely complex product. So what people were doing is they're going out and they're doing the old, we called it, they'd show up and throw up. So they'd show up with a PowerPoint presentation and talk for 90 minutes and maybe some people would care and most people wouldn't. And I looked at this, I'm watching this again and again, and I said, can we boil this down to the essential? What's the essential story here? So I took that presentation, redid it, and then started selling and then selling more. And then other people in the company started adopting what I had put together. And that company, we ended up selling it to a company called Cisco Systems for over $1 billion. So it was an amazing, path. After that, I did a couple more startups, but my real love I found was storytelling. So I actually left, moved to Hollywood, California, and jumped into the movie industry. So I went from high-tech sales thinking I can tell a story to let me tell a big story. Let me make movies and TV shows. So I ended up learning everything there. So I learned really how to refine stories. I produced 2 films. I produced over 1,000 commercials at this point because I found short form is a lot more along the lines of my attention span. We did these movies, they take years, 90 days, 120 days. We have a commercial out there and we're telling a brand story. So that's the quick 25-year history of what I've done from high tech to making movies and now making, over 1,000 commercials for the past decade and a half and helping brands and people tell their stories. And I'm doing more coaching and consulting than I ever have before.
Wow, that's truly fascinating and this is incredible. Can you tell us more about how are you teaching business owners and what are they missing? What are they missing in their message, in their story,
So it's the same for a small business, for a content creator. It's the same problem that these huge brands have. People think that once they get out there and they're going to be, a much larger company, everything turns easy. Well, you have so many more problems. But the biggest problem I see again and again is people aren't telling their story, which is your brand, your message, your personal brand, and even your product's brand story in a way that people care. And so if you lose people in the storytelling, if you lose people in the presentation, you basically, you've confused them, you're going to lose them forever. So I put a whole format, a whole basically framework together, and it's basically the same for really small content creators, for business owners, people launching a business and doing pitching to try to raise capital, as it is for large companies going out and hitting, 2 million customers with their enterprise software. And again, if you can't tell your story right at the beginning in a way that engages people, you lose them. So what we do is I put together formats for each stage of the marketing funnel so that you can tell the right story at the right time. So if you tell the right story, that also means, okay, I want to make sure that, let me ask you a question. So I ask people this, what would you say, what's a brand? What's your brand? What's the definition of a brand?
For me, a definition of all of the emotions that we show, all of the messaging, the brand voice, the special way how we talk to people, and also the visual part as well.
Oh, that's great. So the entire package, all the assets, from the logo to the voice. Some people say it's the brand promise, what your promise is. I really boil it down. I agree with that. But the way I say it is your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
Yeah.
That's your brand, right? You're not there. And what are they talking about? Features, benefits, they did this and this. Well, then the challenge is, why don't, people listening to this, you, when you get home, if you want, take your LinkedIn profile or take your website And then pretend, you don't really have to do it, but pretend you'd remove the logo, maybe remove some of the real significant colors, and then look at a couple of your competitors. Look at
Wow.
your LinkedIn profile and then just remove the name, people that know you. Do you look, sound, feel, is your story any different than your competitors out there? Because that's what your customers, that's what your audience is looking at. In most cases, it's exactly the same. We have better service.
Yes.
We do white glove treatment, all these sort of standard quote stories that are the same. So it doesn't differentiate you. What you really need is what makes you unique.
Yeah.
And that to stand out. And a lot of brands are really afraid of that. A lot of times what makes you unique or different, you kind of try to hide that under the rug, brush that under the rug and cover it up so nobody can see it. But sometimes that's where the magic is. How are you different? Like, for example, maybe you moved from another country and you're exploring and you have this huge, AI audience interested in AI.
Yeah.
That whole thing can become your story. That makes you unique, much different than everybody else that's here in this state doing the same thing. Whatever it is, we want to dig in. We want to find out what really makes you proud, maybe even embarrassed, but put that together in a way that you're very comfortable saying, this is me. This is my brand. This is how I help people. And so on the other side of the table, they care about your story. They'll remember that story, but really they want to know how you're going to help them and how you're going to be unique in helping them. And that's what resonates, and that's what sticks a week and a month and a year later. So that's what we do for small brands. That's what we do for big brands.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that story and what you've been through personally and professionally is the best way to translate to people how you can help them, because once you've been through challenges, you've done certain things and you overcome those, or you find solutions to those problems, then you can go to people and tell them, oh, here I resolved that, and this is an incredible. So how do you help brands to find their voice? I feel like in this era of AI, when AI will be able to amplify our voice in a much bigger scale than ever before, then if we're not really tuned to our own message or our own story, we'll be just bringing more noise to the place.
Right.
So how are you helping companies to discover their own voice and their own messaging?
Now it's more critical than ever, and I would say even compared to just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And so this odd set of skills that I have, right, from being in high tech, understanding business problems, solving problems, and then moving to Hollywood and really being able to tell a story, learning how to write comedy, getting on stage and being a comedian for a couple years. I mean, I did everything I could. It's a really funny time. All of a sudden, these two skills were, they didn't really match for a lot of people, but now it makes a lot of sense because this is the age for the creator. This is the age of the content creator.
I love that.
Right. So it really is, because even Sam Altman, the head of ChatGPT, he said execution is going to be very easy, and we're already seeing it. I mean, of course, use GPT, we use Manus, we use, AI agents and agentic. And so, things like Clay and Make and so on, because execution is now, it's now accessible to anybody. Doing the things that you and I can do and probably have done in the past week when we talked earlier, that used to be tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to automate that in a huge ERP or, or workflow system just a decade ago. And now $20 a month and some intelligence and playing can do it. So the difference is, how are you creating? How is your personal brand? How are you different so that people want to work with you? Or how are you going to make their business different? Because there's AI strategists and there's AI implementers out there, but who really understands the business? Who really can solve the problem? Someone like you, right? So can you really solve their problem, understand the business with all that you went through in your life? You get it. You understand, you've been through it, and then you can change their story. Now you're creating, and these are tools that you get to use. So just knowing the tools doesn't get you there. You still need the knowledge, and you still need to tell the right story so people want to work with you.
I think that's always going to be important, to set up this brand the right way. And it's never going to go away. No matter how many AI tools we have, this is still going to be the core and the most important thing that we need to focus on. And how do you think the marketing is changing nowadays with so many AI tools and in a different way of how we're doing? We're still gonna do the same things, but in a different way. So
Right.
how do you think this is changing?
My answer to that would be two things, would basically speed and separation. So speed is the time to market, the time to develop a product, the time to put a prototype out and test it to see if people even want to use this, to try it while they buy it, is incredibly fast. I mean, it used to be, even with the smallest products, even an information product, it might be a couple months before you set up the funnel and you set up the product and you record the courses and that kind of thing. You could literally put that out there in a test in 3 days now. You could, not saying that you should, but you could go to HeyGen, put an Elena on there, use Script Timer for your voice or use their own. There's you giving a course, giving a teaser, put up a landing page designed by Manus. All that can be done. Put a click-through button straight into a free CRM. I would say for $20 and about 10 hours of time, you've done what could have been done or would have been done over months and people laboring over it. So speed to market, speed to prototype, speed to test is the biggest difference. And then I also think separation. So it's speed and separation. I think the separation is people that are learning now and have the advantage of having business, real business solutions in their past. They're going to separate themselves or they'll be left behind because it's going to be a line drawn.
Yeah.
You know how to use these tools. You know what they can do to solve problems, not just, oh, I can have it order a meal and deliver it for me. I mean, that's cool and fun but how does it solve real business problems? Is it going to help me build a building faster? Is it going to help me, segment customers or prospects and do cold email campaign that's incredibly personalized? Oh yeah. Yeah, it can, but you have to know that you need to do these things. So if you have the knowledge and you can use the tools, you're going to separate yourself from the people. I'm really concerned with the people that don't use the tools or don't know what they can do. They're going to start to fall behind. It's sort of like, 30 years ago, and I don't need the internet. I don't need a website.
Yeah.
And those people got passed behind. Those businesses closed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's an incredible opportunity right now for people to jump into.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. And can you tell us a little bit more about how are you using AI yourself?
Sure.
For yourself or your business and serving clients?
Yeah. So I actually dedicated somebody to work on AI tools and to test different AI tools. So I kind of do the first test, the first layer, find out, what's the best. I dig in deep enough that I know what I'll do, and I'll do some basic building. Some are, complete, like I got early access to a tool called Manus, which, let me give this a try. So let me rapid prototype something, and I was amazed that my fingertips actually made that.
Yeah.
Right. And that used to be, right? It used to be, let's come up with the idea. Let's test that a little bit. Let's go to somebody that knows Figma very well for design.
Yeah.
Then a developer and then the web and all these different people.
Yeah.
All these processes and different people and money going out the door. That thing is alive. That thing is alive and running. And I can't say it was one prompt, but I had to play with it for a few hours and now it's ready. And then I teach my marketing assistant what I did, how it can be done, and now I want you to go further. So those kind of tools I kind of start off with. Now, how I'm using AI right now, just two basic ways. One of the best is I would say I'm more of a creative. So I want to create and the ideas come in at all times of day and night. So I use a lot of transcription. So I talk I talk into my phone or, into the computer, and then it transcribes. And I have certain prompts I use to boil it down. What's the essence? What are the key takeaways? What are the next steps, the action items? So that's not revolutionary, but for me, it's fantastic. That used to take a few days to go to my assistant and then she'd bring it back and that kind of thing. No, that's 20 minutes and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been amazing. And I'd say the other would be really what I said before, doing outreach. Outreach was, cold outreach, warm outreach we've always, done quite well, but cold outreach, finding new people, new audiences. I never want to be the person that's annoying somebody with some generic message, hey, blah, blah, this kind of thing, because I get those and I send them straight to spam. So I didn't ever want to do that. But now it doesn't have to be generic. It doesn't have to be, phony and canned. We go out, we scan their LinkedIn profile, we scan the internet, we find out personal or professional details about somebody, put that into a hook line right up top, and then, hey, we can help. Let's solve one problem for you today with AI. Let's
Yeah.
solve one problem. Like, there it is. 2,
Mhm.
3 sentences and go. So we've automated that process. So those two, I'd say, are the most common things that I use.
It's incredible how much it simplifies our work, makes us more efficient, and it just saves so much time.
It's incredible. It's incredible the
Incredible.
amount of time.
Yeah.
But I would say you can go down these, what we call rabbit holes. So you get down this rabbit hole and then you're lost in there,
I get
right?
lost all the time.
Right. This is great. What? It's 3 a.m? How did this happen? Right.
Yeah.
So you,
Or let me find a tool for this specific thing that I want to do.
Right.
Then you start searching it.
And then all of a sudden there's hundreds.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yes.
So it's
hard to distinguish.
Yeah. But what you just said, I think, is the key for people that are either delivering solutions to a company, or if they're just learning for the first time how to use AI, what tools to use. Think of a problem that's persistent and, it's persistent and it's a pain point, right?
Yes.
This is something you get every week. It's a problem for, like me, the notes, turning that into a proposal and follow-ups. That was something that would take a few days. I'm paying somebody, X dollars per hour to do this. I felt like it was silly. But for me, it's going to take, if I do 5 calls a day, there's 5 follow-ups times 5 calls times 10, blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to be professional. Now that's done in minutes. I solved that particular problem. So my thought is, go find a problem that gives you a lot of pain and then use AI to solve that, make it easy. Then you're on the path. Then go to the next step and the next step.
This is amazing. Yeah.
Good.
What is the most fascinating thing that you've ever came across throughout your work?
I can do a couple of the most fascinating things I've ever come across in my work. One of the things is I'll say this, my time in Hollywood, so I was there for 15 years. One of the things that I thought was really fascinating to me is I actually was fooled into thinking that everything that I saw on, improv shows and reality shows was really happening. Kind of thought, no, that can't really be happening. And then I happened to be on one of those shows. And then behind the scenes at one of those shows, none of it is improv. None of it is really happening.
Mm-hmm.
The drama is made up.
Mm-hmm.
Who will put themselves out there to be the most controversial and not care? Then you go get into an argument. So I can't say it's scripted content, but there is a starting point, there's a finishing point, and how we want to get there. So we're going to start off. There's going to be a problem that comes up. We need you two to be in an argument. We want you to intervene and try to break it up. And then we want you to be falling on the ground because somebody hit you. Go. And they're going to do about 10 versions of that. And, people at home, oh my God, did you think that really happened? No, none of that happened. They're all going to go have a drink afterwards and they're totally fine with each other. And this is, it's completely manufactured. So that was really interesting to see, or just literally see in front of me. So that was kind of fascinating. What else? I'll go with that. My Hollywood time was a lot of fun. And so one of the other things from my Hollywood days was, there's an actor his name is Al Pacino, and I've had a tremendous amount of respect for him since he was, Michael Corleone up into, Scarface. I mean, so he's amazing. So I was in a movie called Ocean's 13, and then actually from there, another movie of his that he produced. And he just has this trick, and nobody else did this. In Ocean's 13, it was amazing. There's Brad Pitt and George Clooney and, Matt Damon and, all of them, kind of were in this gambling scene and this kind of thing. It was really fun. But Al Pacino would start acting before they said action. And this really helped me a lot. Believe it or not, I translated this into the marketing world, into the sales world, which is, they would be like, kind of extras. That means people kind of walking around, lights, make sure the lights are on, camera, okay, and then sound speed, good, and then action. He'd already be shouting and yelling and getting angry over there, because the next time, then when they say action, he doesn't have to get ready. He's ready. He's already angry, or he's already laughing, or he's already doing what he's doing. And he taught other actors that too on the set. And I thought that was really amazing and gracious of him to do, to give away that kind of old secret. So what that meant to me in the world of business when I came back and, kind of started selling, which is, be prepared for everything. Don't walk in cold. Don't start your call. Don't start your Zoom meeting. Oh, I better fire this up. You better give yourself a couple minutes before that call needs to end. You need to be geared up, be ready to roll the second that, that camera comes up and your customer's on the other end of that Zoom or whatever that you use. So that's how I kind of made that transference. I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, is it what made you want to learn more about story and what made you really excited about storytelling? And I remember we spoke about the 10 rules of
Oh, yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Can you tell us?
High tech, selling, really complex solutions, and then going out to Hollywood seems like it would be very different. But for me, it wasn't, because I was really trying to analyze what makes people like this. And really what that means is engagement. How are people engaged with this? Why do they care? Why do we watch a movie? We would so much rather watch a 2-hour movie than sit through somebody's PowerPoint presentation. Okay, seems obvious, but why? And it's because, can you name a favorite movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. But can you name a favorite PowerPoint presentation? Right? No, because they're terrible, because they're usually bullet points, too many words.
Yeah.
There's literally no narrative. There's no story there. And so what I learned when I was working with the producer of The Dark Knight, the Batman, franchise, every single scene needs to lead to another scene. All right. If this doesn't connect to something else later in the movie, then you're going to end up cutting it out. So there's so many lessons in there. And so what I started finding is, what are the core emotions that exist in movies and even commercials that don't exist in PowerPoint presentations and pitches? Okay, those core emotions, there's 5. There's 5 emotions that we really resonate with. It comes out of us. We're in that dark room watching a movie. So is it sexy? So I call it the stuff, STUFF. So is it sexy? Is it sizzling? Is it like, amazing to watch, incredible special effects? The T is for touching. Now, this is a big amount of emotions. Touch the heart. So, and this is really for brands as well. When you're creating your explainer video, you're creating your videos or telling your story, what makes people care emotionally, right? So T, the touching, do you want to inspire them to do better? Or maybe your software or your solution will actually allow them to spend time with their kids instead of working all night all the time. So that's T. So like sexy, sizzle, and then T, touching, and then U is what's your unique point? What makes you unique? You different from everybody else. Let's make sure we celebrate that. And then the 2 F's are funny. Can you make this story funny? Are you good at comedy? Can you bring that out? If you can, absolutely use it. It's wonderful. Corporate and, some large brands, they'll fall back to say humor, but they won't go all out for funny, because sometimes if it fails hard. But if it works, it's great.
Yeah.
And then the last F is fear. So fear of missing out, FOMO, lack of security. What happens to your family? What happens if you're hacked? That kind of thing. So that's why our insurance policies and insurance companies, things like that. So you want to make sure as a brand that you're using at least 2 of these, not all 5 in your each story, but is it, does it sizzle? Is it touching to the audience? Is it completely unique, different from everybody else in your industry? They're all telling this story, so you tell this one. Right?
Yeah.
A Liquid Death, they're selling water, but they're real different from Avion and Pellegrino and this, because they came up with just a different way to sell the same thing.
Absolutely.
And a great name, right? And different name anyway. So, funny and fear. So those are my rules of emotion. And I definitely have 10 rules I call them my 10 commandments of storytelling. I can get into those if you'd like. I'll make sure that I give you a link so people can download these as well, so they don't have to make notes or anything.
Amazing.
But I'll hit a few here. So, the first one, again, all of these, when you hear them come out of my mouth, you're saying, oh, I know that. Oh, I know that. But are you using it in your marketing? Are you using it on your website? Are you using it when you do your pitch? So do you know your audience? Really know your audience. So if you know your audience and you know the trade shows they go to, you know what they care about, you know their pains, you know the problems, you can really connect with them. And so a lot of people, like, the ultimate is, meta platform, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And Zuckerberg, he started off, he didn't start off with 1 billion people or half the planet using his platforms. He started off with one elite Ivy League school in the upper north, east of America. Harvard, the Facebook. It was, basically that's it. That's the audience. And then they created a little bit of scarcity. You've got to be in this school to be on this platform. Do you want to be on? Okay, then we'll put in Yale. Okay, and then we'll, that kind of thing. And then more and more, and it grew, and they grew with scarcity, but a niche audience. A lot of people are scared. Oh, everybody can use our product. Everybody could be, a buyer. Then you're going to lose. You're going way too broad. You've got to start off in a niche, and win it. And then you can expand. And we operate in a niche, but other companies call us all the time, right? Yeah. So you typically it doesn't matter, but I mean, people call and say, sure, we can help you tell your story. So second, sell the whole, not the drill. That means like when you're going to Home Depot, somebody says, do you need a bit that's 2/4 or 2/3? People don't know. What do you want to do? The result is I want to hang a picture on the wall. Oh, okay. Then you need a drill and you need this. So the result is what you want to sell. You don't want to sell the features. And this is really important for high tech companies, a lot of people in the world of AI, because they're sitting there talking about, well, I can use Make to do this, and Make will connect to this and this and this. And I have to tell them all that.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
They want a solution. They want to make sure 20,000 people get an email from them every single day, and they can grow their audience. They don't necessarily care about every piece and part, but the technologists, they typically want to tell every single piece and part.
Yeah, because this is what they do.
Right.
They're excited about, oh, this can do this. And
right. And I actually literally had a call yesterday with 2 founders, and I got off the call and I said, you guys have founderitis. Like you have tendinitis, you have founderitis. The problem is you're telling everybody everything. In this presentation, you've got to get rid of 70% of the words on this slide deck. You've got to grab them at the beginning and then get your audience to be interested, and then you can expand. And I was amazed they had made it that far. So they're going to be doing some corrections. A couple more rules, I would say, that, of the 10 commandments of storytelling. So, want to make sure that the stakes are high. And this is really important. So I call it raise the stakes, meaning stakes are the importance. How important is this? If this isn't important to you selling it, well, then it's just a nice to have. And guess what? People don't buy nice to haves. They buy what they need, or they buy a transformation in their life, or they buy what they think that they need or feel that they need. But if it's nice and this isn't urgent, and it's not urgent to you, it's not going to be urgent to them.
Yes, that's right.
And that might not be a product or a service you want to sell if it's just a nice to have. You need to solve a real problem. And one of the ways that I get people to focus in on this is I call it the 3 whys, or 3 questions that why. So it's, why do they need this? Why do they need this now? Why do they need this from you? Right?
Yeah.
So how are you unique? How are you going to be able to deliver this? So why buy? Why buy now? Why buy from me? If you can think about your product or your service and answer those, you're going to be well more advanced than other folks out there selling the same thing, make scenarios, Clayagents, et cetera, in this world of AI. So there's a few. If you want, I could keep going, or again, I'm going to package this and I'll give you a PDF people could download and they could learn more.
That's really amazing. How the people can find you and find more about you and what the way how you're working in your approach.
Yeah. So I've got obviously I've got websites. So Rip Media Group, like Rip Curl, because I moved to California, Hollywood, and I'm going to learn how to surf. So I took the name Rip. It's really for Rogow Interactive Productions, is what it was 15 years ago with producing movies and that kind of thing. But Rip Media Group is the website that's the home for most things. But if you just search me, Maury Rogow, you'll find. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I give value away, no promotions. Every single week, I'm putting things out there. Here's a formula. Here's a framework. Here's how you do this. And it's from storytelling to AI now. So it's really a mix. So I'd love to connect on LinkedIn. The website, my name again is my own website as well. There's another problem that I'm seeing a lot of small content creators, content writers, and I didn't even think of this for this podcast, but I created a lead magnet, which means it's a website outside of my main websites, just to help people. Literally go here. You can use this. It's going to help you write. So it was helping people write scripts and speeches and pitches, and then it would just time it. Here's how long this will be, because if you have 5 minutes, you don't want to put in 10,000 words and realize, oh my gosh, this, you actually want to realize this is 20 minutes long. I've got to narrow it down. So it's called Script Timer. And so I put this out there, and over the past few years, it's now got 35,000 people a month coming to the site
Wow,
using it. And so I started adding AI tools to it. So I'm really proud of it.
that's
It's its
amazing.
own thing. Yeah. So scripttimer.com, and there's an app so that people can, you add your voice, you can clone your voice. You obviously can use other AI voices I use only the best, and we've developed the best voices that are very human, that kind of thing. Helps you write, create storyboards for you, and images and things like that. So
Oh, that's
Script Timer
amazing.
is helpful.
Actually, is that the software that you was talking about earlier that you're creating
Yes.
based on your knowledge and using some AI, I think?
It keeps growing. It's its own
Yeah.
little monster. So I keep thinking, so it's got customers. It's really great. It's a great little kind of micro SaaS, software as a service. So people go there and they're, creating their voiceovers, they're timing their speeches, they're adding voices to it. And then I started taking all these frameworks, the 10 commandments of story, the emotional stuff. And then I created really advanced prompts, and I put those on the site. So now when people go there, they're like, you know what, I've got a pitch, or I need a value proposition for a client.
Yeah.
They have value prop, they got to create it. You just type in value prop and it pops up a couple of fields. They're an electronics manufacturer, they're in this state, this, a couple of details, and it'll write it for you based on all these formulas and algorithms that I put together over the years. So I have my book that's coming out, which is the readable version of this,
Mm-hmm.
and then it kind of
That's
matches up with the
awesome.
site.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Very
Yeah.
exciting.
Thank you. One of the biggest things that people ask about and what they really need is an elevator pitch. That means you walk into the room, oh, tell us about yourself, right? So, there's a long version and there's a short version. If you need a punchy version, what I always tell people is state the big problem in your market clearly. There's a problem in the market, and that is people do not know how to sell themselves. So we do X for Y, so they get Z. X is your solution, Y is your audience, and Z is the result.
Mm-hmm.
So now you get an amazing elevator pitch. So next time you're at a networking event or in front of a true customer, it's not just like, oh, tell me about yourself. Oh, I like to surf or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about yourself business-wise. Well, people have an incredibly hard time telling their own stories and getting sales.
Yeah.
So we automate their sales process by telling stories for high-tech companies so that they sell more and then they get their lives back. So there's like an example,
Yeah.
and it works for anybody. So if you have an AI service professional that's listening to this right now, people are falling behind and losing sales because they don't know how to automate. Well, I automate their most difficult processes, and I work with high-tech companies so that they can speed their sales and spend more time with their dog, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it really works for that's the formula that I wanted to make sure that people knew so that they can use that. And again, I'll give you these, some formulas that you can hand out to folks that are, your readers and listeners too.
Incredible. That's amazing.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today. For everybody, I'm going to upload the links of Maury and reach out to him on LinkedIn. Find him, and he has an amazing content, and all of these tools that he's providing us are truly amazing. So make sure to check them out. Thank you so much for being here today, and see you next time.